Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator. Ooh. And today I'm just going to talk about the various games I'm going to be taking to the store out of town in the future and selling for money because, yeah, financial stuff is crazy. But I want to talk about each of these before they're gone forever. We'll talk about Thunder's Edge, which I'm sure I've talked about from one of the card saving streams. Nice little book. This is from like the very, very early days of Fantasy Flight with, you know, very much a black and white rule book, monochrome. Very thin hexes. There's one of the major points to go for in the game. This a place called Centaur, which is approximately in the center of the map, but you know, after it gets built, who can say what happens? These silly little cards that are punched out of a frame instead of, you know, coming in a pack like they do these days. There's like factions and man, the glare on this is terrible. Let's leave these to protect them, but let's see if their camera can get it. Maybe because it's too bright in here, I think. Let's get the lights a bit and try a look or anything. Forget it. But there's factions, there's cards that you trade in the political phase to achieve console. There's stuff that, if you're set up for it, that gives you some combat advantages and some other stuff. So normally the game comes with like 2 purple and 2 black dice. I'm going to be nice and leave the replacement dice in with this game because it deserves it. I'm also going to leave in these gigantic Chessex trays of counter holding that I like using for games like Twilight Struggle. But, yeah. So yeah, tension is what keeps the pace of the game. If it gets high enough, the game just ends. Console segment, mission cards, player action, resources, drop segments. Yeah. Combat and politics, which, you know, is typical to the universe of Twilight Imperium. Which this effectively takes place on. And then we've got in Mad Scientist and Global Domination. Very helpful reference card for all the crazy rules game has. Rulebook is kind of thick, but 40 pages, geez, but it's still kind of small. You'll basically have your a random doomsday weapon you're trying to construct and use to threaten the world. So you start out by threatening a city, and then a state, and then a country, and that gets you more resources if you succeed, which is based on die roll. Or if you fail, you can accept the failure and you'll be at a -1 for your cowardice. Or You can trigger the weapon anyway, like a maniac. The first time you do it, you get a +1 to your next time. And then there's other stuff like dirty tricks to pull on your opponents. Like, oops, a good one here. Security measures. Play this card during a rivalry phase to add a die to a defense roll against an attack. Yeah, there's a bit of dice rolling in this game for threatening the world and attacking other players to get their resources. There we go. A little better. You'll have minions. One of the minions is straight up money. You'll have a chance to get resource cards and like trade them. You can only gain resources based on the limits that your layer has. Everyone's supervillain is unique in terms of having limits on what they can keep from the resource phase. But they also have that special ability to straight up get resources of a type of their 0 type, and ultimately have that instead of whatever they normally get. What is that? Apocalypse Chaos. I believe this is one of Z-Man's imports from a French creator. Yeah. We've got a nice little rule book. So you'll have 1 to 4 characters with various capabilities. And then you'll have your dice that you'll roll to determine your actions. And you'll be fighting enemies that operate on a kind of automatic program of attacking, moving, and such. And this is how hard they are to kill. The lightning bolts up top determine their initiative. Overall initiative is player initiative 1, enemy initiative 1, player initiative 2, enemy initiative 2, player initiative 3. And then when you actually beat the opponent, there's a random item on the back. So, part of the strategy in the game, random as it is you try to eliminate enemies as completely as possible instead of trying to spread the damage around them. Otherwise, you're just going to keep going around and inflicting their damage. And some of those enemies are evil. They will straight up take anywhere from 1 damage, just half your health or even more. And then there's like rooms where you can spend dice to use certain abilities. It's an interesting game. I think it's cool design, but it is random, very random, very difficult. Yeah. Now I should probably contact the place I'm going to and, get the full details of what they're accepting and their policies and all that. I don't want to go there for nothing. And then we have import export. A game of shipping. Everyone will have a harbor. And there's one that's gonna look better. But maybe. Yeah, I'm sorry for the light. I know this being a pain in the ass. Yeah. You'll have a hand of cards that'll let you do what the card says for its action. The cards also feature crew, goods, and the thing you're actually shipping. So, for example, there's there's graphics cards. An illegal pirate good, or can be used as a pirate action, as an illegal good, or to be shipped as the graphics card. And then there are dots that show. It's hard to tell. That's fucking writing. There are dots that show what you need to have in order to even do these, to even ship them. There's the containers on the left. Well, it's kind of hard to see. It's supposed to be green. That show what it takes to fulfill the shipment. And then special ability is if at any point you have the most of 4 good types, you win immediately. There's a number of those win immediately cards in there. Yeah, every card in this game that is effectively a shipment of some kind is unique. But in general, there's classes. So it's 5 different goods, 5 different actions, or a crew. It's an interesting game, but we got Ogre, Objective 218. So there's the classic tabletop game Ogre, where like one army of soldiers and vehicles is fighting against the super tank called the Ogre. By the way, I like ogres. Not necessarily the super tank itself, but the kind of mythical creature. That's why I had Ogre Kingdom's army, after all. So but this is Objective 218, which is based on the Hill. Battle for Hill. Let me read this. It is based on the Battle for Hill 218. 218. So, start the game with this little board, and then you'll start the game with a hand of cards, and you'll be trying to supply your way into your opponent's command post, which supplies diagonally. So that will supply into him and the infantry, and that'll win. And then you'll have attacks that you can make based on what the grid shows. If it shows fire, it's going to be instantly destroying whatever it's the one thing that it can hit. If it shows a crosshair, then another one of your units has to have that unit in their target range, and then to support the attack. And then ogres count as playing 2 cards. Normally you can play 2 cards for the turn. Playing 1 ogre card counts as playing 2. And they destroy 2 things, just straight up. It's a nice little game. And Driver. We'll be trading various goods in your hand to a central market. And so on your turn, you'll start the game with hand of cards. On your turn, you can take a card from the market. You can trade cards by taking more than one from the market and then putting the same number back into it, which can include camels. Or you can take all the camels out of the market. You want to have camels to recover from big trades because, as I've said before about card advantage, you don't want to be behind on stuff like that. But when you do, you'll get 1 token for everything you trade based on how many, starting with the highest value to the lowest. So like these are rubies. There's 2 of the 7 value and 3 of the 5. So the first person to trade for rubies is getting a lot. So like the super luxury stuff you have to trade at least 2 for. Everything else you can trade 1. But you want to try to trade big groups when you can, because there are bonus tokens that, depending on how many cards you trade, will give you a little bit of a bonus to a lot. And then when a number of the tokens run out, let's see how many it was. It was around 3 types of goods are depleted, or not enough cards in the deck to refill it. The game ends. The player who has the most camels get a, say, like 5-point bonus, but otherwise you'll reveal the gold values on all your tokens, and whoever has the most wins that match, and you have to win 2 matches out of 3 to completely win the game. Alrighty, a little bit of an intermission. Alright, and I'm back. Mind Trap, a game that is a very precious memory of childhood, because this game was like older than me. The age requirement, ages 12 and up. I think I had this right at the perfect age for it. And 1996. Yeah, this game came out before I turned 12, but only by a little bit. So the goal of the game is to solve these assorted challenges. There'll be somebody asking from the opposite side of. We'll be reading off the cards. Why is the light so bad in here? Oh, so, yeah. But they'll be reading off, and the opposing team, one team will read it and the other team will have to try to figure it out. Some of them have like black diamonds on there. Let's see. See what comes up. Yeah, right there. Black diamond. That means players can ask yes or no questions towards solving the riddle. And if you get it right, you go one space along this little mind-bending track. And your goal is to try to get to the end. The short game is like here. The long game goes here. If you get it right, you can get 1 point to do another question for challenge, or you can take your chance on D6. 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3 are the possibilities. And the 3 is pretty lucky. Whoever had this game last wrote, "This game sucks," in pencil on the rule book. I mean, I tried to erase it, but you know, some people are just, I don't know. Some games just aren't hard. Alright. Then we have One Night Revolution. Ooh. Talking about revolution. Anyway. You'll have specialist cards according to how many players there are. You'll have a headquarters that will hold 3 of the IDs. So for the IDs, there's rebels and informants. Informant. Does not look like Matt Damon to me, but anyway. So there'll be enough IDs so that there's at least 1 rebel for everyone, plus there's the 3 informants. And there'll be specialists which determine what a player can do during the game. The thing is, you can bluff. You can do something that's not your specialist in an effort to throw people off. But ultimately, everyone, the informants will know who they are, and then each player will take a specialist action, so that they'll take it without anyone else knowing that whether that was the action that they're supposed to take or not. And then after everyone's done their stuff, everyone has to take a matching specialist token to indicate what they've done. Or again, they can bluff. And then after that, there's discussion to figure out who the informants are. If at least 1 informant can be eliminated, I believe the player is eliminated by having at least 2 people point them out. If at least 1 informant is eliminated, then the rebels win. If all the players agree not to point 2 fingers at anyone, and everyone in the headquarters is an informant, then the rebels win. But if no informants are eliminated, the informants win. Interesting idea. I never got to test it out. Hopefully I'm going to at this point. Squadron Strike. Any ship, any universe, fully 3D. Second mission. Very detailed in these little things for showing what way your ship's going in terms of verticality. These various tiles for just how high up or what distance your ship is. It seems like a lot to take in. There's the little navigational chart thing for and orders and stuff. Yeah. Oh, there we go. You can kind of see it better when I'm covering my hand like this. Yeah. Space combat is cool, but man, I see why they kind of they sometimes keep it the TV for some games. I used to have Battlefield Gothic stuff for the looks. Kind of miss that. My favorite workship is the one that's just straight up spikes on the front, and it just ram that sucker into the first thing we got across. Also, a piece of advice to anyone writing anything, even remotely fictional. Be careful whose last names you use for your characters. I don't recommend giving anyone a certain last name. I don't care what your justification is. Please don't do it. Just don't. Anyway, Dixit. Picture is worth 1,000 words. Very simple game. I keep botching one of the rules in this is that when the deck runs out, you're supposed to end the game. But I like shuffling and just playing it to the end anyway. But yeah, everyone will have a little hand of pretty pictured cards. And the main player for the round will take a card from their hand and place it face down while saying something that they feel fits the card. Just enough that certain people will get it. The idea is you want to get at least one person, as close to as few people as possible, to actually get it, because everyone else will contribute a card and it'll be mixed up, and everyone but you will have to figure out which one was yours. So, if all players find the active players card, because they made it too obvious, all the other players get 2 points. If nobody finds the active players card, because they made it too obscure, then the other players get 2 points, and they get a point for everyone who got theirs. If at least one player, but not all players have found it, then the active player gets 3 points, and the players who find the card get 3 points. And then players get a bonus point for every person who picked up their card. But this is a very, very straightforward game of creative thinking and guesswork. Still, one of my favorite clues from one of the times I played this game is damn you, Rick Moranis. The card itself was like a plant, and I don't know how I managed to get that right, but that was the right card. Because apparently, it was a shout out to Little Shop of Horrors. That version. Oop, there's pitch. This is the good version. This is the one that has a bell. Ah, love that sound. So everybody will have. There will be enough commodities, one type of commodity per player, and then they'll be shuffled together, and dealt at random, and then the bell gets hit. Players will start trading. Well, it'll hold up like, I'll trade you, trading two, and someone else will trade. Both have two to trade, and the players will straight up trade. Then your goal is to get all the commodities of one type, and then when you do, you hit the bell, and the round is over. You score the points value for that commodity, and you play to a certain number of points to win. This is just it's a freaking classic. Almost had to let go because I got it for like $2, but I'm trying to control the amount of space I'm using up in my room, and I'll be going through my DVDs next. So yeah, that's it. One more time just for the hell of it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Alright. Girl in the box. I don't. Oh nah. We'll play as a group of people in this house, mansion, something. You're trying to seek out the what you need to defeat the Hakona. The thing is, as you do stuff, you make noise. There are two noise systems for the game. One is stacking on these little discs onto a little cardboard counter, which requires some dexterity, and it may not always be fair. The alternative is a card system. Excuse me. But as soon as you make noise, the Hakona gets the turn, and they get to do stuff. If you stumble upon her, I believe she just kills you instantly. You have to figure out where she is and have the right item to do it. Then the Hakona gets powers that can be gained over the course of the game. There are two potential starting rooms for her as well. Let's see here. The various things are to win are escape, where you're trying to find the combination to the safe to get the keys. You get the secret exit. The thing is, the Hakona can sit on certain things to prevent players from getting to them. There's using one of the items she's weak against. You'll know it by finding the clues scattered throughout the house. You have to point out the shadow you're using it on before and declare the item. You have to be right about her being there and that it's the right item to use. Otherwise, you waste the item. You don't want that happening because that screws you out of one of your victory conditions. Finally, there's a doll. And then there's the girl's bones themselves. if a visitor holding the doll finds her bones, and then basically leaves the doll's bones, the Hakoda spirit is put to rest peacefully, and the visitors win that way. But this seems like a pretty tough game. Almost, it is tempting to hold on to for like Halloween and shit, but I don't know. It seems like kind of a hard game, I think, but I don't know. Somebody might appreciate it more. Sorry, it's not me. The Night Cage, I'm sorry. I am very, very sorry for saying goodbye to this game. It is a cooperative, ever-shifting maze game of trying to get the hell out while the stack of tiles determines both, how much time you have and what there's still left to encounter. Everyone is trying to find one key. They can only carry that one key. They bring it back to a gate. Only one player can occupy a given tile, except for a gate. Standing still is not always an option. So you want to try to coordinate things together where players can get to a gate together with the key to escape in time. I love that the keys are metal. There's one. Where'd it go? Where'd something fall? Oh, there's a token. There's nerf tokens to do some extra stuff, like moving again, blocking an attack, charging through an enemy, or during final flickers, ignore, removing, or eliminate tile. So the thing with this game is, wherever you occupy, the adjacent tiles by passage are lit up. If they contain a certain monster, then either moving will set them off. And it is very, very easy to lose the game by losing all the key tiles before everyone has enough, or losing all the gates so there's no way out, or just running out of the tiles in general. There's a hard time limit, which is appreciated, but that game is hard. Yeah. Alright, home stretch time. Axis and Allies, classic World War II strategy game. 1942, second edition. So the game is, there are two sides, Axis and Allies. Germany and Japan versus U.S., United Kingdom, and Russia. Let me make absolutely sure on the right terms there. Yeah, UK and USSR. And then it's got a two-part map. It's really big. Got those little red dots are capitals. You're trying to capture the opposing side's capitals with your military units. The little track up top is for tracking your current production level, the circles and the numbers. So we've got, you'll have control of stuff at the start of the game, then you'll actually have to start working forward, controlling the rest. Game comes with some dice. Tokens for representing having multiples of certain units together. It's mainly for like infantry. But I'm sure you can do it with tanks and all that. The game has all sorts of miniatures, little army dudes and stuff. People to fight with. Which, yeah, this is a game that's been around for ages. I believe the designer's also gone on to do an alternative version called War Room, which is really cool. It's a long ass game. It requires thinking ahead. Big time. Alright. Speaking of UK, Britannia, game of historical conflict. Like, the time period is like early, yeah, from 43 AD to 1085 AD. Not all the nations are in play at the same time. Instead, they come in over the course of the game. But the game can be played with 3 to 5 players. It is actually the best configuration for the game is 4 players, because it's just simply give each player one of the 4 colors. Excuse me. Pardon. There's the population track, where you'll get more people while you hold stuff during the game. There's Scotland, England, and Wales, I believe. And then across the sea is Ireland. I think. I'm going to feel like a dumbass if I'm wrong about that. But then there's the list of nations. Got the Romans, Romano-British, Belgae, Welsh, Brigantes, Caledonians, Picts, Irish, Scots, Northmen, Dubliners, Danes, Norwegians, Saxons, Jutes, Angles, and Normans. And there's like 16 rounds to the game, with various nations coming in. And then nations eventually go into decline as the newer ones replace them. They're represented with various tokens. Romans get forts, which are pretty cool. And ultimately, what you're trying to accomplish during the game for each of your nations is to achieve just passing through, conquering, defeating certain historical figures, and you get, and all those points will add up over the course of the game to your total points. You can try to keep track of points separately for each of your nations to see which one was really doing well with its objectives, but you don't really need to. Or you can just get a sheet of paper at some point. For a game along similar lines of having a nation and then having it decline and get replaced by something new, and being able to score off both your old and the new stuff, check out Small World. We've got the great city of Rome. It's not bad. It's actually kind of feels like ancient SimCity-ish. You'll have action strips. So there'll be, like, the Emperor will be up here, and the closer you are to the Emperor, the sooner you'll go, but the fewer things you'll have to work with. Ooh, excuse me. Bricks are how you build stuff. Gears are how you use your productive centers. And they'll start the game with two cards. A little production center and a little level 2. Where do we go? Just mixing them up. Level 2 residence. Residences for every unique of the colors adjacent to it. I think it was more points. The various color buildings are all massively expensive, but they get you stuff like money and other things. The biggest you can build your city to is 4x4, so you have to think ahead on a lot of stuff. I have in the old score sheets. Let me just read last time. Toss this. Yeah, you can accumulate money, but bricks are lost over time. Another thing you can get over the course of the game, there's little star chips. At various points in the game, the players with the most will claim a star card that's worth points. That will cost them all their star chips. One of the two mistakes on doing this game the first time, playing this game the first time, was thinking players just kept their star chips the entire game. Nope. If you win a card, it goes away. The other screw up was aqueducts, which are like blue, light blue. You can only have one of them per row and column, and that requires some crazy planning to pull off. Let me see. But it's a nice little game. And Magdar. I kind of have to wonder about the quality control for this one. It's another early fantasy fight. On a number of points in the English, they keep messing it up as Madgar, which is it'd be funny if it wasn't happening so much. And again, it's another more like red and white than black and white, but it's, the effect is the same. You'll have doors. There'll be a map of tiles leading to an angry fire demon. Get the hell out of my backyard, you dwarven somethings. Every turn, you'll roll a die, and you'll have to destroy the closest one to Magdar that matches it. If you're really lucky, you can keep the map intact for a long time, but luck runs out sooner or later. When a dwarf occupies a tile, then on their turn they can go digging for mithril if they're far away from the demon, or gems if they're close. If they're mining for gems, and so let's say they made the gem like a 4, and then they decide to stay there and continue mining. On their following turn, that 4 can become an 8. But eventually, on their turn, they'll have to take what they've got and get the hell out of the danger. By being far away, you can get mithril. The first dig makes it half, the second one makes it full, and then you can take the full home. You need to have 1 mithril for every gem you're going to score, because that's the first thing that your score hinges on, is having the gems per 1 gem per mithril. If there's ever a tiebreaker, then any gems you have in excess of the mithril are counted. So normally the The game has these silly wooden pawns because early Fantasy Flight was cheap. But I got Dwarven Miners. Let's see. And I painted them the 4 player colors. I will be nice and include them in this because I really don't have any of this. This is a silly random game that's, kids. Some kids might get a kick out of it. It's also a it's also fitting the mold of what I consider a beer and pretzels kind of game. You can kind of run it with your brain off a little, mostly. Great Western Trail. This, there's already a corner messed up on it. Great Western Trail, you'll have a hand of cattle. Starting cattle to take along the trail to of course I put the freaking points and score sheet because there's various ways to get points. Here the term point salad is falling out of favor and that's oh yeah, there's going to be supposed to be 3 games in the series. Second edition Great Western Trail, which is what this is. Argentina and New Zealand. Hey. But there's the game board. So every turn you'll move along the trail. There's forks in the road. Passing over black or green hands will cause you to lose stuff. Hold up. Yeah, even if you lose stuff along the way, most can go down to 0. You'll never have to have anything. There's the job marker over here. As people get to Kansas City, they'll trade in their hand of cattle. Every unique cattle counts. They can use awards or it's called something. It's these little purple metal looking things. Let's see. Certificates are what they're called. And you'll get money for it, and then you'll put out a station. Sorry about this again. But yeah, after you cash in, you can claim a spot up here. But for every little crossing mark between your train and that, you'll lose money for it. Then you'll add more hazards and more job seekers, and ultimately the game ends when this last row is filled up. So the game has a certain timer to it. There's only so long you can stall. You've got your player boards with all this stuff you can do. You have to open things up by scoring your hand or by claiming train stations by moving into them and paying for them. Random bags of random people and hazards. One bag is focused on hazards, one is focused on workers, and the last one is a mix of all of them. It's not a bad game. I just have a bad tendency of forgetting things. It's feeling like crap about forgetting things. Oh yeah, there's also a solo mode challenge. There's buildings for affecting the trail, potentially messing with people. You'll get points for having certain things at the end, like your buildings, the cattle that you purchase instead of the cattle you start with. So it's got a bit of that deck builder element to it. History of the world. There's a lot in this game. I don't want to open it up. Basically, there'll be a number of epics. Each player will be randomly assigned a nation, and they'll have to go as far as they can with it in that round, and they'll get the points. The way it's a lot like Britannia. I think one of the two came first. History of the World and Britannia, because I see a lot of similar things. And then there's Hunta, your El Presidente of Republica de los Bananas, and it's like diplomacy, but it's played for laughs. All the silly backstabbing shenanigans. In general, it's mostly a nice little, a bit of a negotiations kind of thing. But then but sometimes it just turns into a military nightmare of fighting. You're trying to. The president determines the budget, and people can agree on it, or say, bullshit, we're going to fight you. But then you have to get that money into your Swiss bank account. And whoever has the most wins. It is ridiculous. But yeah, I'm just gotta clear out the collection. I still have a crap load of games left anyway, so it's not like I'm wiping out the entire thing. But hopefully I will get enough for it. My bills are a little bit crazy this month, and I'm going to need the extra help to make up for it. Although work hours are somewhat improving, but anyway, this has been the wanted to feature these games one last time because they're going to be on. So here we go. I may love tabletop games, but sometimes I gotta give things up to when I need more than games. And what I need more than games right now is financial responsibility. So anyway, if you're still here, thank you for watching, and we'll see you another time.